MythBusters was one of the defining shows of early 21st century television, and its stars are proud of the show's safety record. But that's not to say that it was completely accident-free or that no eyebrows were harmed. Here are the biggest accidents and injuries on MythBusters. Anyone who has watched MythBusters knows that the setup for each experiment includes plenty of safety precautions to protect the cast and crew and innocent bystanders.
It may not look like it, but we're professionals. Do us a favor. Don't try this at home, whoa!
But one day, the unthinkable happened. In 2011, the MythBusters build team were testing whether a stone cannonball could be fired with the same force as a metal one. To examine this myth, the team headed out to the Alameda County bomb range and brought along a self-made cannon that they had used in prior episodes. To start the test, they loaded in a metal cannonball, lit the fuse, and boom, a puff of smoke. But where was the cannonball? As the MythBusters would later discover, it had apparently bounced off the ground and was sent flying into a residential neighborhood 700 yards outside the range.
And when we realized that had happened, we called off the experiment immediately to help out any way we could.
From there, the cannonball followed a hectic trajectory. According to the Los Angeles Times, it smashed a 10-inch hole through one house, bounced off the roof of another, and ultimately came to a stop after hitting a parked minivan. The MythBusters have described this incident as their worst day ever, and rightly so.
I think we all have the same worst possible day ever, and it's going to be Cannonball.
Thankfully, no one was hurt, but regardless, the network promised to pay for any damages, and Adam and Jamie personally met with the affected families to express their sympathy. The MythBusters also made sure to be even more safe with their projectiles in future seasons. The cannonball incident aside, the biggest accidents on MythBusters almost always happen to the MythBusters themselves. In the 2008 season, Grant, Carrie, and Tory decided to test whether a cloud of sawdust that was lit on fire would produce a huge fireball, as a recent viral video had shown. To examine this, the build team built a cannon that shot sawdust into the air, which was immediately lit with a flare. To their surprise, the resulting fireball resembled the one in the viral video almost exactly. But the curious team decided to take things up a notch and build an even bigger cannon. This time, they filled it with a highly flammable powdered coffee creamer. When the cannon fired, the massive cloud of creamer ignited a second later, with the build team standing just a few yards away. Carrie detailed the incident, saying, "And then the wind changed and it started coming at us. I had so much fear in my heart, I just started running. Thankfully, it stopped its explosion a few feet away from the group, leaving them all completely unscathed." In the 2015 season of MythBusters, Adam and Jamie investigated an urban legend which said that a rock caught in a lawnmower could be propelled with enough force to kill a person. So they started by removing the safety features from some commercial lawnmowers and running them over a makeshift rocky lawn. They found that the mowers were capable of launching rocks with enough force to lodge in styrofoam. Additional lab tests confirmed that the flying rocks had similar or even more energy than a gun-fired bullet. This alone was enough to declare the myth confirmed, but Jamie wasn't satisfied. He had so much fun testing the myth that he decided to construct a massive high-powered lawnmower from hell. But the dastardly device turned out to be even more destructive than Jamie had intended. When the giant mower hit a bump, the axle broke, sending the rapidly spinning 50-pound blade flying out of the front of the machine. Even with no injuries, the MythBusters decided that the machine was too dangerous for further use, and Jamie had to abandon his pet project.
Well, I intended to go over the top with my lawnmower from hell. And I guess I did.
In one of MythBusters' very first episodes, Adam and Jamie investigate whether using a cell phone at a gas station can lead to an explosion. Testing this myth required the duo to build a gasoline-filled glass chamber, which they would then attempt to ignite with a phone. The episode featured many mini-explosions as the MythBusters tried to figure out the proper concentration of gasoline to test the myth. But for one of these explosions, Adam was standing just a little too close.
I'm fine. Am I missing an eyebrow?
Adam had a moment of panic when he thought his hair was gone, but he was lucky. The blast only singed off part of his eyebrow. The most unfortunate part of the incident was that Adam had a date the following day, but hopefully his companion was impressed by his dedication to science. According to Jamie, some of the worst injuries to occur in MythBusters were broken fingers. Ironically, broken while handling safety equipment. Those heavy glass panels that we put up are kinda bad to put your fingers in between if you're not careful. One notable injury of this type occurred to Adam while filming an episode for the 2014 season. The MythBusters were testing whether an exploding water heater could potentially put out a nearby fire. While assembling the blast shields to house the explosion, Adam got his hand stuck between two of the heavy panes and apparently broke the base of his index finger. According to Adam, he had already forgotten about the injury by the time the episode aired a few months later. That is, until his mother called to ask him if he was all right. Luckily for the worried mom, Adam's hand was already fine by then. Is it possible that the Confederate States of America could have built a two-stage rocket during the Civil War and launched it from Richmond to Washington, D.C.? Adam and Jamie dedicated a whole episode of the 2005 season to investigating this unusual myth. In less than 2 days, the MythBusters were able to construct an entire rocket using technologies that would have been available to Civil War-era engineers. But there was one major mishap along the way. Adam and Jamie were pretty confident that they had built a working rocket, so they decided to perform an indoor ignition test. They put the rocket in a big metal shipping container and rigged it so that it could be ignited from outside the lab. When Adam pulled the switch, they heard a massive boom, and smoke immediately began pouring from the workshop. Things were looking much worse on the inside, with huge clouds of smoke and numerous small fires filling the lab. One camera and a few pieces of lab equipment were completely melted by the blaze that the rocket had produced. After the workshop was restored, the MythBusters took the rocket outside, where it only traveled a meager 500 yards. The myth was declared busted. According to Adam, the scariest experience he had on MythBusters was the 2010 episode where he escaped from a submerged car. The concept is already terrifying enough, but it's even worse when things don't go as planned. The MythBusters had already attempted a series of sinking car escapes in the 2007 season, but decided to make the scenario even more realistic in 2010 by flipping the car upside down as it fell into a lake, with Adam and a safety diver inside. The experiment started off fine, but as the unbalanced car filled up with water, it actually flipped right side up and then upside down again. Even worse, once water had completely filled the car, it was a murky brown and burned his eyes. Adam found that he was completely unable to escape under these conditions, so he tapped out, asking the safety diver to pass him the oxygen tank regulator so he could breathe. But like the car itself, the regulator was upside down, and Adam learned this terrifying lesson.
And an upside-down regulator will give you air, but it also gives you a lot of water.
Now disoriented and choking down water, Adam boldly reminded himself to keep a level head. He was soon able to open the car door and escape. The first myth that the MythBusters ever tested was whether a car fixed with rocket motors could go flying off a ramp at a speed around 300 miles per hour. In the initial 2003 trial, the MythBusters found that a rocket-boosted car did travel significantly faster than normal, but nowhere near 300 miles an hour, nor was it capable of becoming airborne. Unsatisfied, Jamie and Adam returned to this rocket car experiment in a 2007 episode. This time, they decided that mounting the rocket tubes inside the trunk of the car would allow the system to be more stable, and spent a good portion of this episode rigging a Chevy Impala with this new configuration. They also built a massive ramp that ideally would allow the car to take flight. When it was time for the test, Jamie and Adam watched from the sidelines.
It's heading towards the ramp. Or not.
While not one of the most dangerous accidents, this was certainly one of the most disappointing. But in a 10th anniversary episode, all 5 MythBusters joined forces to revisit the rocket car legend one final time. Anticlimactically, the myth was busted. The car smashed into the ground after only a few seconds of flight. Besides Adam, the build team's Tory Belleci seemed to suffer the majority of the show's injuries. Tory's worst injury probably came in the 2010 season, during an episode where the build team was investigating whether a person could hold on to a ledge indefinitely. To test this myth, the MythBusters went to the top of an abandoned building, where they would wear a harness and take turns dangling from the roof. Tory went first and was able to hold on with his bare hands for almost a full minute before letting go. Unfortunately for Tory, his fall wasn't clean. As he descended, his shin smashed against an open window frame of the concrete frame below. When Tory was released from the harness, there was a big gash on his left leg that was bleeding substantially. But Tory, the daredevil, kept a positive attitude, telling his companions,
"I think you should be glad that I was a guinea pig." Oh.
In another episode, Carrie and Tory went to a goat farm to find out if goats could really be startled into fainting or falling over. That day, however, the first to fall over wasn't a goat, but Tory himself. While he was holding a handful of goat feed, one curious goat jumped up and kicked Tory in the groin. Whether it was accidental or intentional may never be known for sure, as the goat has declined to comment. Surprisingly, that wasn't the only low blow that Tory received during his time on the show. During a different episode, he and Grant created a model of Ben Franklin's famous kite, but the small kite began to whip around uncontrollably before the rogue device collided with Tory's crotch. No wonder Tory once said, "If I had a nickel for every time I got hit in the groin on the show, I could retire. I hope I could still have kids." In the 2014 season, the MythBusters tested whether Hollywood car stunts were realistic. They busted the notion that it's difficult to push your opponent off the road during a car chase, finding it to be quite easy. Likewise, they busted the possibility of one speeding car driving up another like a ramp. For the final myth, the MythBusters tested whether a novice driver could tip his car sideways and drive around on 2 wheels. Adam and Jamie constructed a half ramp that they would drive up with the left side of a car, elevating it onto its 2 right tires. But after hours of attempting to use the ramp, they found themselves completely unable to control a half-elevated car, or even to keep it on its right wheels for more than a few seconds. When they called in a veteran driver for guidance, their attempts improved somewhat, until they didn't. In one particularly bold test, Adam was able to drive the half-elevated car for almost 10 seconds.
I personally think it would be great to roll it, but they tell me that's bad.
But then he tilted it too far and quickly lost control. The car flipped completely on its side and then onto its back, skidding for several yards before grinding to a halt. It was an intense-looking crash. The windows shattered, spraying the upside-down men with glass. Thankfully, both Adam and the expert driver were okay, even though neither had a helmet. This myth, too, was declared busted. In 2009, 2 years before the cannonball fiasco, the build team decided to test a particularly silly myth. Can a person literally have their socks knocked off by an impact? They started the test by putting socks on the show's famous test dummy Buster and hitting him with a massive pendulum. His socks remained on his feet, so it was time to go bigger. The build team acquired 500 pounds of ANFO, an ammonium nitrate-based explosive, and brought it to a quarry outside the town of Esparto, California. They placed sock-wearing mannequins at various distances from the blast point and prepared to examine the results. But the outcome of the test was overshadowed by the sheer size of the blast. The massive explosion sent shockwaves through the town of Esparto, shattering several windows. According to KCRA-TV, one woman was even knocked off her couch by the powerful blast. Luckily, no one got seriously hurt, besides the MythBusters' reputation, that is. Esparto residents criticized the show for not warning them about the explosion in advance, and MythBusters had to pay for several window replacements. A later episode revealed that the MythBusters never returned to the Esparto quarry after that. It's probably for the best. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more grunge videos about your favorite science shows are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.